Okay, hello everybody. Now it should be recording. Welcome to this call for the Kubewarden community meeting for today, October 12th. I'm Victor, one of the Kubewarden developers, and I will be the host of this call. We have also in this call Flavio, also from the developers.
Hi, everybody.
We have Jordan.
Hello.
And we have Martin also.
Hi.
So let's see what we have today for the call. Here on the agenda, I see that we have talking about the Kubewarden 1.7 that we released 3 weeks ago or something like that, which includes the new audit scanner feature, which is great, the support for WASI policies, which opens a world that we can maybe talk a bit, and also the usual changes about maintenance and bugs fixes and nice things there. Then we have doc improvements that have been progressing. Also, we have the upcoming Kubewarden 1.8.0 already. We can talk about it. Then we have also the Kubewarden UI 1.3.0 from the community that would be presented by Jordan. Okay. Do you think, guys, that we have any other topic that we can add?
Maybe we can talk a bit about what is coming next.
Sounds like a great idea. Okay, so then let's start. I will start sharing the screen. If I can do it. Okay, now I should be sharing the screen. I move things from Zoom away. Okay, yeah, we see here the agenda. We see 1.7.0. Let's have a look at the audit scanner. I do have a cluster deployed, which is deployed actually with the upcoming 1.8. And it basically
Can you increase the fonts a bit, please?
Yes. Better.
Thank you. Yeah, it's better.
You can see that we have deployed Kubewarden, CRDs, controller and defaults. And we have deployed also Rego, Telemetry and Prometheus and so on, because why not? No, you know, I was looking at things, so why not have everything there? I can have a look at the list of things deployed in the cluster. We are seeing here the pods. We see the usual things deployed, but we also see here new things, such as the audit scanner. This is a run of a cron job. Or we see here the policy reporter pod that comes from the deployment, and the UI. What's that? Okay, I suppose it makes sense if I start by talking about the audit scanner. And the best way to do that is by looking at this cron job. This cron job is new with 1.7. It's a cron job that would run all the policies that are available in audit mode, basically, which is kind of like, you know, a constant refreshing. As you can see, it has just started a new run. And it basically runs all the policies against, it creates a list of the policies in the cluster and then matches the resources that are in the cluster against those policies and sees which ones can be used for synthesizing requests that are going to be triggered against the policy server in a different endpoint, but as usual, you know, as a normal policy, and then we get results back. I will not, yep. I see Flavio.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that right now this is running every 2 minutes, but because this is your development environment, so we use exactly. Everybody can set his own cron job.
Yes.
Schedule.
By default, it's 1 hour, if I remember correctly.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, this can be changed or triggered manually. Okay, and then we get the policies. They run in this audit scanner. They go through the policy server as usual, and we get results. How are those results saved? Well, maybe you know about policy reports, which come from the policy working group in the Kubernetes community. And as you can see, the new audit scanner has created policy reports per namespace. And it will also create a cluster policy report for the cluster admission, for the cluster resources in general, like namespaces and things like that. So you can see, for example, I have no we see 2 failures here. For example, in the Prometheus namespace, our deployment has run with the usual default policies that we install with Kubewarden, and we have found that it passes for 70 resources and it has failed for 2. Of course, you will need to go here and look at all the resources and see which one has failed and the reasons and so on. This is a bit complicated, no, and cumbersome if you're not doing it programmatically. So there's another tool from the community that it's the policy reported UI. And we have elected to ship it as a subchart of our Helm charts. And you will need to enable this by your own. You just enable the subchart, the installation, and if you remember correctly, that's what appeared here in the pods. Because now we have a policy reporter and the UI, and it creates a service, and you can expose it and access it. All of this is documented. All of this is in the documentation and also in some blog posts. So, for example, we can see here the policy reports per namespace. And we can see here that in the namespace Prometheus, in the Prometheus case, for this pod, it's mounting sys. Several things.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that make sense for Prometheus exporter because it has to work this way. But of course, the policy is flagging it, and this can be relaxed. But you know, it provides really nice insights.
Yep, exactly. So this would be the audit scanner feature, more or less. It's a sneak and peek. I suppose we, all the team, know it's super looking forward to see what the community comes up with, because now, as you can see, policies can be run in a cron job-like manner and check things in the cluster. And thanks to the audit scanner, one can be sure after deploying the audit scanner of the changes in the cluster. So maybe one deploy things in the cluster, resources, created resources or updated them, but then the policies were not up to date or were not checking those things, and later on the operator decided to apply more policies. With this, you would get a notification for that. I'm not explaining it correctly, mainly, no, but I think maybe I'm driving the point there. Okay. And this is the audit scanner feature. Flavio, would you like to talk about a bit of the WASI support for policies? I can.
Yes, I didn't. Oh, cool. Thanks. So basically, this introduces a new way to write policies. So prior to that, we supported policies written using the Rego language, which is a DSL used by Gatekeeper and Open Policy Agent to express constraints. This is working pretty well. And then there is, the way to write policies using traditional programming languages, which is, what we are doing with the majority of our policies. We are writing them using Rust or using Go, but there is support for C#, for Swift, and other languages can also be added as well. Technically speaking, this is the best way to write a policy using a traditional language. This is this mechanism, and this mechanism uses a WAPC, which is WebAssembly Procedure Call. It's an open source project that we contribute to that allows to have a communication between the host, the policy server, and the actual policy. Through this communication channel, a policy receives the data that has to be evaluated and returns the evaluation response. But in certain cases, the policy can do something more fancy, like, for example, request some information to the runtime. Like, for example, when we look at the policy that we have that verifies that workloads are using images signed by trusted parties. Well, in this context, the policy is leveraging SIGSTOR, but to do that, it does that by using an SDK that we provide, which behind the scene, works by having the policy ask to the policy server, can you please tell me who are the people signing this image? And there are a lot of operations that are going on that happen on the server side of WebAssembly, so to say. Also, all the what we call the context-aware policies, which are policies that at evaluation time they use information coming from the Kubernetes cluster. They all work by using this communication mechanism. So you can write a policy that, for example, is looking into the typical example is a validation of ingress objects, and to make a decision, you also need to know what are the other ingress resources that are already defined inside of the cluster. This is where context-aware policy is required, because it allows you to ask to the Kubernetes API server by passing through the policy server what are the other ingresses that are already defined. Then with this information, plus the information that came as part of the request, you can make a decision. All right. The last example could be WASI policies. So WASI, and then I will go back to YAML. WASI policies, they are introduced with this version of Kubernetes, the latest one that we pushed out a couple of weeks ago. WASI is basically a WebAssembly interface that allows you to write WebAssembly programs, allows you to take a program written in Go, Rust, whatever, and compile that to WebAssembly. And this program is going to be able to do interaction with a file system if you want, for example, or to interact with environment variables, with standard input, standard output. All of that is isolated within a dedicated sandbox provided by the WebAssembly runtime. The thing is, we are using WASI as a way to write programs of using languages that do not support yet WAPC, or that have certain limitations. The language that we care about is Go, and that might sound funny to you, because I mean, actually, I just said that we can write the type 2 policies using Go, but when we do that, we're not using the official Go compiler, but rather we are using the tiny Go compiler, which works great, produces really small WebAssembly modules, but TinyGo is not able to support complex Go code bases. The majority of them for policies, like 90% of policies, 99 probably, are going just to do fine with TinyGo. But if you want to do something extreme or crazy, then you need to use the official Go compiler, which recently gained support for building WASI binaries. So starting with Go 121, released in August, late August, then you can write a Go code that is compiled into a WASI module. And now with this new type of policies, you can leverage that to write policies and compile in Go and compile them with official Go compiler. This new type of policy, the WASI ones, has some limitation. So first of all, it cannot communicate with the kind of communication it has with the host is really, really limited. So it is not possible to do context-aware policies in this case, or it is not possible to leverage the SDKs that we have. So like the crypto verification or DNS resolution, all this kind of stuff is not doable. Plus, it is going to be, it's still fast. We're talking about microseconds of evaluation time, but a type 2 policy or a type 1, here we are in the range of microseconds, microseconds versus milliseconds. So yeah, they are slower. However, why did we do that? Because we wanted to use the Go compiler to compile a complicated code base into WebAssembly. And this complicated code base is a portion of the kyverno code base, which brings us to the third type of policies. This is highly experimental. We're really looking for your feedback on this topic. So kyverno, as you know, is another admission controller for Kubernetes. the one that uses its own YAML-based language to express policies. So what we have done is we have leveraged, this code engine of kyverno and compiled that and adapted that to work also with Kubewarden. And this is running inside of this WASI policy that we then load through this new mechanism. This is, thanks, Victor, this is the policy we're talking about. There are some big warning labels over there. So first of all, this is the biggest ever WebAssembly module that I have seen. It's 62 megabytes. When looking at another WebAssembly module that we run for Rego policies or for, I don't know, Rust or TinyGo policies, we are in the range of 100 kilobytes or 2 megabytes, So the difference in size is significant, and that reflects on the first execution of the policy, because we have to take this WebAssembly code and optimize that for the CPU operating system and architecture that is actually, running our policy server. Usually this is blazing fast. You don't even notice that happening with Rego or TinyGo or Rust policies because they're small. But for something that big, that takes a toll. But this is just the first. Basically, it makes the bootstrap of policy servers lower. All right. And this is why we recommend you, if you want to play with this policy, just leverage the flexible architecture of Kubewarden. As you might know, we can have as many policy servers as we want, and then we can decide where to schedule our policies. So our recommendation is to basically create a dedicated policy server for these kyverno policies, and then schedule all of them over there. As you can see here, inside of the spec of a cluster automation policy, we can write policy server and then the name of the policy server. So previously, up in the file, we wouldn't have to go up there. We defined a policy server called kyverno only, and then we are just allocating policies over there. What is interesting to talk about is the code snippet, the one right here. Thank you. So basically, the policy works in this way. You just copy and paste a kyverno policy definition in there, and it works. There are, however, some limitations because we are not doing context-aware policies for kyverno. We are not passing through configuration options of a policy. We are not doing mutation. We do not even plan to do the generating type of policies that kyverno has, the ones that can create other resources. So, but as pointed out there, these are limitation of the maturity of a code base. We didn't write this code yet, but we can definitely, go ahead and fill those gaps. The point is, and this is an open question to the community, are you interested about that? If so, please reach out to us, let me know, so that we can, properly schedule our future work to improve this use case.
Okay,
we can do also work to reduce the bootstrap time and maybe optimize even further the size, but yeah, it all depends if this is relevant to you, because we have other cool things coming up, so more on that later. But
this is super, no? Encouraging in a sense, and I find it personally quite interesting. I mean, we have the tagline Kubewarden, the universal policy engine, or we strive to it, no?
And this is proof of it. I mean, we can run basically everything thanks to being based on WebAssembly.
Sounds amazing. Okay. Maybe this is gonna be it for the topic of Kubewarden 1.7 release, which is already out. Yeah, we could talk about more other things.
Yeah, just watch our blog, and we are still some blog posts coming up. There is one dedicated to Audit Scanner, which is just out, and there is going to be one dedicated to WASI that is going to be published in the next days, next week.
Yep, good call. Okay, so then let's move to docs. This is also important. We're aware that we should have good docs. We have people in the team working on getting the docs a new, a refresh. There's not much to show, no, but maybe I can open the new CRDs page, which is not final, it's just a PR, but as always, we develop in the open, no, and everything of this is available if you go to the PR and find the link. So for example, this is a refresh of the CRD docs, which, I don't know, they look great, no? I mean,
it's pretty nice, yeah. This is a description of all the CRDs we have with detailed information about that. It was really nice.
So yeah, and of course, for the rest of things, they are getting a refresh, correcting some errors and so on. So yeah, that's super nice.
Yeah.
Kudos to the team. Okay, Kubewarden 1.8.0. That's yet unreleased. What does that mean? So we are working, no? The team has been working on Kubewarden 1.8.0, and it's mainly, apart from, of course, maintenance, bumps of dependencies and so on for security related things and niceties for us developers in Kubewarden. There's a change with regards to OpenTelemetry. We will inform this correctly in the change logs and via blog posts and everything. But the thing is, OpenTelemetry, the project, keeps changing. We have support for OpenTelemetry, and we have decided to, in the past, we used to have, I can maybe show this, which is a preview of the blog about this release. We have decided to separate the feature of telemetry and enabling it into both metrics and tracing, because we now have support in the Kubewarden controller to enable metrics and enable the log format of the policy server apart, and then the controller takes care of it if the tracing has been enabled and so on. No, am I correct?
Yeah.
Maybe
yes, you are. To give more context, so we didn't, to be also fully transparent, we didn't plan to do this release at all because we were working to bring other features that we are going to discuss and do the release maybe around KubeCon time. But there was an issue reported by the community because basically there are some people using Kubewarden who want to enable the metrics support, so use Prometheus to scrape the metrics, but they do not want to have the tracing enabled as well. Because before, if you wanted to have metrics, you also were forced to go and use the tracing export. And this was a problem for them because they were basically using Prometheus, but for the logs, they were happy with the JSON format that we use by default, because they were using some other way, some sidecar to basically consume these logs and send them somewhere else. And we thought about how to solve that, and we realized that as Victor said, there were also some changes done to the OpenTelemetry project that we are using. We are using their collector, and basically that made our configuration backwards incompatible, and hence we decided to push out this patch release, so that minor release. It would be a patch release, but we are breaking the API, so it can be a patch release, and that's why we're pushing out this minor release.
Yep. Well, to be fair, we are breaking the API for the Helm charts, basically.
Yeah, for Helm charts, yes.
Yeah, CRDs and everything, all of these. But yeah, and
yeah,
Flavio, you have a good point. Good point on showcasing that. Yeah, we whatever comes from the community, we do prioritize it and have it in mind, and you can see that it shapes our releases. No, so
yeah.
Okay, as usual, you can just opt out of all of this and configure OpenTelemetry on your own for Kubewarden. Okay, and I think that's it for 1.8.0, sorry. Jordan, how do you feel about talking about the UI that it's coming from the community?
I'd love to. Thank you.
Maybe
you mind if I share the screen?
Sounds perfect. I should have stopped sharing now.
Yep. Okay. And there we go.
Perfect. We can see it. We can see.
Great. All right, so with the release of Kubewarden 1.7 and the compliance reports that Victor already showed, now in the Rancher Kubewarden extension, we actually are showcasing these policy reports all around the dashboard for different resources. So for instance, I'll start with the project namespaces page. And you can see in different namespaces, I have different policy reports that are going on. You just get a quick glance at what's going on. So maybe I'll dive into this test 2 namespace, and we can see we have 10 failures, 14 passes. So if I go into the detail of the namespace itself, and now we have this compliance tab, and this will show you all of the failures and passes that are coming from the policy reports. So you can see one of the containers had privilege escalation, so it failed, run as root should be set to true. And what's really great about this is from the namespace, you can go straight into the resource itself. So I can see the pod that was actually causing the problem. You can see the pod's own policy reports within itself. And if you need to, you can change the configuration of it. And what's also great is you can look at the actual policy that is causing this. So in case your policy is causing some problems and you want to change it, you can just go straight to it. Now, you don't always have to go to the namespace to see it. You can look in deployments, for instance. You can see all these deployments have some failures and passes. There are also in services, which seems like only one has been tested, but that is passing, which is great. It also is in ingresses, and it's all over the place. So it's kind of this ongoing work with all the policy reports, but I think it's really making a great addition into the UI extension. So
quite sweet, to be honest. So just to recap, this is the Rancher Kubewarden UI, no, that ships as an extension.
right,
And
exactly.
it's open source. It's an open source project that it's right now shipped by Rancher and so on. So so this is a downstream of Kubewarden. It's a consumer of Kubewarden. And when do you think that this Kubewarden UI 1.3.0 is going to be available?
Oh, hopefully within the next week or so. At the moment, we are actually using 1.3 RC1. So it's not fully out. These policy reports aren't fully out yet, but you can test it if you would like to. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for our policy reports.
I just realized one minor thing, you know, as you were showing stuff around, maybe something that we might want to do. So if I go and look into what is the policy that is failing, or one that is passing, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you can click on that one and click on the name so that we are redirected to the policy section. I think it would be nice here to show the README of a policy, just in case, you know, someone doesn't know what this policy is doing, because here you are using a name that, you know, is pretty clear, but still maybe someone doesn't know what it is. So, and if you put an ugly name or something not clear, then you are completely lost because you don't know what is this doing. So yeah, just a random thought that occurred to me while looking at that. But this is really amazing. Yeah.
That might be a good idea to have, just because if you have so many policies going on, it could be easy to forget what they even do, especially if you don't name things correctly. So it's a great idea. Yep, so that's it. Thanks, you.
Jordan.
Many thanks. Okay, I suppose that concludes our agenda for today. As always, folks.
We wanted to say what is coming up
you're right.
next.
Please.
Yeah, as I said, we didn't plan for the 1.8 release. It was something, you know, that was unexpected, but still, you know, it's a pleasant improvement. What we are currently working on is we are working on a feature that will allow Rego-based policies to be context aware as well. So context aware is the ability to grab information from Kubernetes cluster at evaluation time. This is something that right now is doable only when writing a policy in Rust, TinyGo, whatsoever. We are going to extend this ability to Rego policies, and we are going to basically provide a seamless experience like we always done. So you can take your gatekeeper policy that is context aware, run that inside of Kubewarden without changing any line of code. And the same, we plan to do that for a policy deployed inside of a OPA admission controller. That's one thing that we are working on. Another thing, and this is a request that came from the community, by the way. Then there is another feature that we're working on, which is a request coming from the community as well. So we always constrain Kubewarden to just do validation for Kubernetes admission requests. But the community asked if there would be a way to do evaluation of any kind of JSON object, you know, kind of like OPA does. But they wanted, you know, to basically keep reusing Kubewarden for that. And so this is something that we are going to work on. Basically, you write using our SDKs, you write your policy, and then we just, you know, we are going to allow you to validate any kind of thing that you send to this endpoint. So
and that would be how that would be. One would just mark that kind of policy, like accepting a different thing that is a Kubernetes admission request, no, admission review request for us, and so on, and that would be it.
Yes, this is what we are thinking about doing. We have Fabrizio looking into that because we realize that there are some tracing decorators here and there that are expecting to have an incoming request coming from Kubernetes. So we have to figure out if we want to use a different endpoint for these policies and a different configuration and a special flag inside of the settings, or, and that would be what we are aiming for, maybe it's doable, use the same endpoint and do not specify anything inside of the configuration of a setting, inside of the settings of a policy. Basically, it's the policy itself that, you know, it is already the case, to be honest, because the policy is always, you know, expecting the incoming payload to be a Kubernetes admission request. So if it doesn't get a Kubernetes admission request, it is already going to report like a failure. It's like a invalid payload. But if you write a policy that takes something that is not the Kubernetes admission request object, then the policy is not going to fail. So it's all basically up to the developer into, you know, figuring out what kind of payload the policy expects. But we have to do some more research over there.
Okay, I mean, both sound great, and it's super nice again that they come from community, no? You know, it's, and they also play into the universal policy engine, no? Being able to run out of cluster, evaluate policy evaluations of things for outside of the cluster or more things on Rego. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe someone will use Kubewarden to do evaluation of OpenTofu files, you know,
for example.
the Terraform open source alternative. It's JSON after all. Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Okay, I think that's actually the agenda meetings. I have amended the agenda meeting, so this is there. Any other topics that we want to talk about in this community meeting?
Not for me.
Okay, so then I suppose that's it. Many thanks, everybody, for joining. Many thanks for those watching this afterwards in the recording, and see you around.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.